This happened a few months ago. I'm Jake, 35, and I usually work as a software engineer. I love spending time with my family whenever I can, so I agreed to go camping with my parents and my 2 sons. It was supposed to be a nice break from our busy lives. I wanted my boys to experience nature like I had as a kid. The campsite was deep in a national forest. The tall pine trees surrounded us, and the air was fresh. I felt peaceful at first. On the first night, I went off to gather firewood. It felt nice and quiet, just me and the gentle sound of the trees. But then I heard rustling nearby. I thought it was just a raccoon, so I kept walking. When I got back to camp, everything felt off. It was too quiet. My boys were laughing, and my parents were chatting, but I felt this strange unease creep in. I brushed it off. The night went on, and we shared stories. Yet, that feeling stuck with me. The second night, things shifted. I could hear laughter again, but it wasn't my boys' laughter. It echoed through the trees. I looked over at my family, and they seemed just as confused. "Did you guys hear that?" I asked. They nodded slowly, unsure. I told myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, something felt wrong. Later that night, I thought I saw something darting between the trees. My heart raced, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. "Did you see that?" I asked my dad. He brushed it off, but I could tell he was uneasy too. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe a trick of the light. On the third night, it got even stranger. I found an old photo tucked away in our supplies. It showed a campsite I didn't recognize. The people in it looked happy, but the place felt wrong. I didn't want to show it to my family. I felt like it would only worry them more. Before we left, I noticed something half buried in the dirt nearby. It was a child's necklace, covered in grime. I showed it to my boys, but they didn't recognize it. My parents looked at me with concern. I picked it up, and an icy chill ran down my spine. What had we found? As we packed up, I noticed the forest felt different. It was like it was watching us. My heart was racing. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we had opened something we shouldn't have. I turned to my family again, but their faces showed my own confusion and fear. What had we seen? I wondered. I looked back at the woods, and I felt a presence lurking just beyond my vision. Then, I heard the laughter again, but this time, it was right behind me. I froze. The laugh was high-pitched and playful, unlike anything I had ever heard. I slowly turned, half expecting to see my boys playing a trick. But when I peered into the darkness, all I saw was the dense, shadowy outline of the trees. "Dad?" My younger son, Ben, called out, his voice tinged with confusion. I turned back to him, and for a brief moment, my heart sank at the concern etched on his face. My older son, Ethan, was looking around nervously. "What was that, Dad?" Ben asked, his small voice breaking the tension. I had no answers. "It's probably just an animal," I said, trying to sound reassuring. But inside, I knew we had crossed a line. The forest felt thicker now, as if the shadows were closing in. We finished packing in silence, each of us stealing glances over our shoulders. The laughter had stopped, but a heavy weight hung in the air. My parents exchanged worried looks. I could see the uncertainty flickering in their eyes. As we prepared to leave, I noticed the air was thickening, and the sunlight had taken on a muted tone. The winding path back seemed less welcoming, like it was held together by an unseen force. "Let us move quickly," I urged. The sooner we left, the better. But as we made our way through the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following us. My gaze darted through the trees, searching for whatever had stirred the unease. "Stay close," I instructed the boys, keeping my voice steady. As we walked, I spotted something glimmering on the ground. I knelt down, brushing aside the leaves. My heart raced as I uncovered another object, a small, rusted key. An odd chill spiked my senses. Who had lost this? Why did it look so out of place? "Jake, we really need to keep moving," my dad said, his voice strained with urgency. I looked up, and I could see he was just as unnerved as I was. "You're right," I stammered. I slipped the key into my pocket. There was no way this could be good. We picked up our pace, urgency replacing the lingering thrill of adventure. But just when I thought we were making progress, the laughter returned. This time, it wasn't just behind me, it was all around us, flitting from one side of the trail to the other. "Run!" I shouted instinctively. Adrenaline surged through me as my family and I broke into a sprint. The trees loomed closer, their branches reaching like fingers, clawing at us. Panic roared in my chest, drowning out all reason. I stole a glance back, just in time to see a shadow dart between the trees. My breath hitched. Whatever it was, it moved with unnatural speed. "Dad, wait!" My sons called out, voices threaded with fear. I looked around and the forest felt alive, it thrummed with a strange energy, like it was about to swallow us whole. Then, everything went still. The laughter faded, replaced by a profound silence that felt suffocating. I turned to my family, their faces mirrored my dread and confusion. And then I noticed the trees weren't just full of shadows, they appeared to be shifting, as if they were closing in. "What is happening?" I whispered, panic rising again. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the tree line, small and ghostly, watching us. I couldn't tell if it was a trick of the light, but the air chilled around me. "Run!" I yelled again, dread pulsing through my veins. Whatever we had stumbled into wasn't done with us yet. We took off, breathless and terrified, crashing through the underbrush. My heart pounded so hard I felt it echoing in my ears. I didn't dare look back. I pushed my legs harder, urging Ethan and Ben to keep up. I could hear their footsteps faltering, fear dragging them down like lead weights. The figure was still there, I could sense it, lurking, watching as we fled. My instincts screamed that whatever was behind us had an interest in our panic. "Dad, I can't." Ben gasped, his small frame struggling. I forced myself to slow, just enough for him to catch up. Ethan stayed close, eyes darting around us, scanning for what we all feared was still following. "Keep moving." "Just a little further," I urged, trying to muster strength I didn't have. My mind raced. Where were we headed? Out of the woods. Back to the car. I scanned our surroundings, desperate for a landmark, a direction, anything. That's when I heard it again. The high-pitched laughter, playful yet eerie, echoed around us like a haunting melody taunting our attempts to escape. It floated from the branches above, swirling through the trees. My stomach dropped. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, mocking our fear. "Keep going," I barked, losing my patience. A sudden burst of urgency crashed over me, snapping the lingering hold of dread. "Don't look back." Just then, the laughter stopped, swallowed by an unsettling silence. It was as if we had passed a threshold into a different nightmare. The air grew thicker, pressing down on us like an unseen weight. I slowed again, scanning the trees. I thought I saw movement, something darting between the trunks, just out of sight. My breath caught. I could feel something watching, waiting for us to falter. Suddenly, I caught sight of a clearing just ahead. "There!" I shouted. The promise of open space pushed us forward. I darted ahead, desperate to reach safety. But as we broke through the last row of trees, my heart sank. The clearing was empty, wide open, but it felt wrong, too quiet, too still. There was no escape here, no refuge. Sharp stones jutted from the ground, and a strange fog curled at my feet. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. Looking around, I felt a knot of dread tighten in my stomach. The ground felt like it belonged to another world, one that held secrets we were never meant to uncover. Before I could respond, I heard rustling behind us. My head snapped around, and I caught sight of movement again. It was that ghostly figure from before, now stepping closer into view. It was small, delicate even, with eyes that seemed to shimmer like moonlight. I blinked rapidly, fighting back disbelief. "Dad!" Ben cried, trembling visibly. I took a step back, my mind racing. "What do you want?" I shouted into the stillness. The figure paused, tilting its head, as if trying to understand me. Then, with a voice that was too sweet and sharp, it whispered, "Come play." Panic consumed me. The boys were too exposed, the idea of playing felt like a trap. Before I could form a response, I felt a rush of cold air swirl around me, and the shadows of the trees seemed to close in again. "Run!" I yelled again, brandishing my determination like a weapon. Something unfathomable was unfolding around us, and we were caught in its spell. I glanced back to see the figure watching, but now it was joined by others, appearing one by one, shadows flitting in and out of sight. We turned to race back toward the trees, our only hope for survival against whatever game they wanted us to play. We bolted through the clearing, urgency fueling our every move. My lungs burned, but I couldn't let up now. I could hear the crunch of leaves and twigs under our feet, echoing the drum of fear in my chest. Ethan and Ben were right behind me, their breaths growing ragged. "Don't look back!" I shouted, my voice hoarse, forcing the command into the air. I could sense the shadows closing in, the shapes that flickered in my peripheral vision. If we stopped, if we hesitated for even a moment, I feared we'd never start moving again. Just ahead, I saw the gap in the trees we had burst from. The familiarity felt like a promise, a sliver of hope. But my heart sank when I saw it, more figures emerging, swaying slightly, blocking our path. They had formed a loose perimeter around the clearing. "Trapped," I muttered under my breath. My instincts screamed at me to scream or fight, but instead, I stared, transfixed by the sight. The figures were all different. Some looked like children, others appeared older, all wearing clothes that seemed to ripple and shimmer, merging with the fog surrounding us. "Move!" I yelled again, forcing my feet to start running sideways, trying to find a way through. The laughter returned, a haunting chorus that echoed off the trees, almost drowning out the panic in my head. I felt a tug of fear and wonder, were these spirits or just illusions crafted by the woods? Something caught my eye then. "Over there!" I yelled, pointing toward a cluster of large rocks a bit further into the trees. "We can hide." Without waiting for a response, I yanked Ben by the arm and started toward the rocks, Ethan fast in tow. As we moved, I felt a strange pull, as if the fog itself was reaching for us. I dared to look back, and my stomach twisted at the sight of a figure gliding closer, long hair, a smile that turned my blood cold. That's when I heard it, a low, melodic hum threading its way through the laughter. It wasn't coming from any of the figures. I could feel it vibrating through my bones, urging me to stop. "Don't listen to it!" I shouted, fighting the seductive tone that filled the air. "Keep moving." Once we made it behind the rocks, I crouched down, heart hammering. The familiar panic started to claw at my throat as I quickly scanned the surroundings. With the fog lingering, it was hard to see where the figures had gone. As I held my breath, I hoped maybe they'd lost interest and moved on. But then I heard the sound of bare feet padding softly on the forest floor. I darted my eyes around, desperate to pinpoint the source. "Ben," I whispered urgently. "Stay close." Ethan was peering around the boulder. "I think they're all gone," he whispered back, but his voice had the tremor of doubt. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, louder and more chaotic, spinning around us like a cyclone. The light shifted, and in that moment, I saw something glimmer in the distance. A flash of color, a small toy or a ball lying in the grass, vibrant against the gloom. "Did you see that?" I breathed, pointing. "We need to go right now." But as I pushed my way through the rocks, the humming grew louder, resonating with a strange urgency. The figures had returned, encircling our hiding spot, their expressions gleeful and wild. "Come play." They sang in unison, their voices echoing, filling the air with dread. I froze, my pulse racing as the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. An invisible barrier somehow held me there, shrouded in darkness. I stifled a scream, caught between the desire to flee and the unrelenting pull of their invitation. And then the world shifted. Everything went dark. I stumbled into a void, a heavy silence swallowing everything around me. Should I open my eyes? The last thing I remembered was the laughter, the figures closing in. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat, abandoned by fear. Slowly, I opened my eyes. The darkness was thick, yet I could make out faint outlines. I wasn't behind the rocks anymore. Strange, dim lights flickered in the distance, casting long shadows that twisted and danced. Wisps of fog curled around my legs, grounding me even as my heart raced. "Ethan. Ben." I whispered, panic creeping into my voice. My fingers grazed the cold earth beneath me. I felt alone, but I needed to find them. My instinct kicked in, urging me to move. I forced my legs to cooperate, pushing myself up, trembling as I took in my surroundings. I walked cautiously towards the lights, each step echoing in the stillness. I spotted silhouettes ahead, dark and blurry against the glowing hues. "Guys?" I called again, more firmly this time. No reply. My own voice felt distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Suddenly, something shifted nearby, catching my attention. I turned sharply to find a figure emerging from the shadows, not one of the cheerful dancing figures from before, but something slower, almost deliberate in its movements. My heart raced at the sight. "Please, don't," I gasped, stepping back. The figure paused, tilting its head in what seemed like curiosity. It had a face I recognized, too familiar, yet contorted, its expression twisted in a grotesque parody of a smile. My heart sank. Though I tried to convince myself it couldn't be, I recognized those eyes from my childhood, a photograph long forgotten. "Help!" I shouted, filled with desperation. I thought of Ethan and Ben, feeling the weight of their absence like a stone in my gut. The figure took a step closer, and my instincts roared to life. I turned on my heel and sprinted away from it, the lights flickering furiously as I ran. I could hear the hum again, but this time it shifted, becoming a low, accusing whisper. It seemed to follow me, wrapping around my thoughts with every frantic step. Hurdles of twisted roots and branches sprawled across my path, but I forced myself forward, my breath burning in my lungs. "Ethan. Ben." I cried out, hoping they could hear me, hoping they were close. In a moment of pure gut instinct, I skidded to a halt. Just ahead, I saw a figure, a tall shadow standing still under a flickering light. My heart pounded as I squinted into the glow. "Ethan." I ventured, taking a tentative step toward it. The figure turned slowly, and relief surged through me when I recognized his face. "It's me," he said, his voice cracked. I rushed to him, grabbing his arm. "Where's Ben?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted, panic lacing his words. "I thought he was right behind me. We got separated." Before I could respond, a high-pitched giggle echoed from somewhere beyond the light. My heart dropped. The figures from before had returned, their haunting laughter piercing through the fog. "Guys, we need to hide," I urged, pulling Ethan toward a large tree that could conceal us. Together, we crouched behind the gnarled trunk, pressing ourselves into the damp earth. "I can't believe this is happening," I whispered, voice trembling. "How do we get out?" Just then, the giggling intensified, growing closer, wrapping itself around us like chains. It was in that moment I understood the figures weren't interested in letting us go. We were part of their game now. "Stay quiet," I urged, holding my breath as I peered around the tree. What I saw sent chills down my spine. They were gathering, their faces twisting and merging into a grotesque delight. And in the center of them I squinted in disbelief. "That's Ben!" I exclaimed, an unsettling dread overtaking me. He stood there, eyes blank, a smile stretching across his lips. "Ben!" I called, but the figures started to sway, the ground trembling beneath us. "Run!" Ethan hissed. But before we could move, the shadows descended upon us, and everything went black. When I finally regained consciousness, I was lying on damp ground, scattered leaves pressing into my side. Gritting my teeth, I pushed myself up, blinking against the dim light. Everything felt disorienting, colors blurred and shapes shifted in my vision. "Ethan!" I croaked, my throat dry. The panic from before rushed back to me. Where was he? Where was Ben? I stood up slowly, scanning the eerie surroundings. I was alone, encircled by towering trees. The air was thick with moisture, and an unnatural hush blanketed everything. "Ethan!" I called louder, my voice trembling. Then, a rustling sound broke the silence, sending a rush of adrenaline through me. I turned quickly, half expecting to see one of those figures rise from the shadows. Instead, it was Ethan. His clothes were torn, his face streaked with dirt and fear. "Where have you been?" I asked, rush of relief battling with dread. "I thought we were." "I don't want to talk about it," he interrupted, glancing over his shoulder as if something were following. "We have to keep moving." "Where's Ben?" My stomach twisted at the thought of him alone out here, possibly with those figures. I don't know," Ethan stammered, his eyes darting. "I lost him when the shadows came. Everything went dark, and I ran." It felt like the air around us shifted, a low buzz filling the space. "We can't just leave him," I insisted, urgency piling onto my fraying nerves. "I can't go back there," Ethan replied, his voice breaking. "Did you see the way they moved? They were playing with us." Suddenly, a piercing laugh erupted in the distance, a sound so raw it felt like it sliced through the stillness. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt my pulse quicken again. The shadows were near, somehow more solid and menacing. "Come on!" I shouted, grabbing Ethan's wrist. We took off deeper into the forest, heart pounding in sync with our footfalls. The laughter followed us, echoing through the trees like a haunting melody. As we ran, I kept glancing back, frantic and terrified. "Maybe if we circle back," I began, hatching an idea. "No!" Ethan nearly shouted, stopping abruptly. "If we go back, they'll get us. We need to keep going away from here. Please." It was clear he was losing his grip on hope, and I felt the same pull of despair. "But we couldn't just abandon Ben. We have to find him," I insisted again, voice steadier this time. Then, through the haze of fog, I saw a flickering light in the distance, faint but real. "Look!" I pointed, hope sparking inside me. "Maybe he's there. We should check." Ethan hesitated, his face still twisted in fear. As he fought with indecision, we both heard another sound, a soft, childlike voice calling, almost melodic against the chaos. It sent chills down my spine, each syllable wrapping around my memory. With a sudden jolt, I recognized it. "Ben!" I yelled, pushing forward despite Ethan's grip. "Wait!" he warned, but I couldn't stop. That's when I saw Ben's figure standing by the light, his face turned away from us. He looked unsteady, swaying slightly as if caught in a trance. My heart raced. "Ben!" I shouted again, desperate. "It's us!" But he didn't turn, and my breath caught in my chest as I felt the air around us warp. The laughter intensified, spinning into a frenzy. Suddenly, everything went dark again, and I stumbled, falling to the ground. A sinister silence swallowed me whole, and I was left wondering if I would ever see my friends again. When I regained my senses, the darkness felt suffocating. I blinked, desperately searching for any sign of light, but there was nothing but a thick blackness pressing in around me. I struggled to sit up, my heart thrumming wildly. "Ethan? Ben?" I called out, my voice hoarse and thin, swallowed by the void. Panic slithered into my stomach. Where was everyone? As I focused on the sound of my own voice, I could faintly hear rustling nearby, a whisper of movement that sent chills down my spine. "Ethan?" I repeated, this time quieter, almost afraid of what might answer me. A moment later, the darkness began to lift. I could see the outlines of trees, their branches stretched against a wash of pale moonlight. Relief flooded over me, but then dread followed closely behind. Where were Ethan and Ben? I pushed myself to my feet, my legs shaky, and scanned my surroundings. The forest felt unfamiliar, even more distorted under the pale glow. "Ethan!" I yelled again, half stumbling through the underbrush. Then I heard the distinctive sound of a footstep crunching leaves. I spun around, instinctively ready to run. "Anna?" A familiar voice broke through the quiet, and out of the shadows emerged Ethan, his face drawn and frantic. "Ethan!" Thank God! I rushed to him, relief washing over me. "We have to find Ben. Did you see him?" "No, I haven't seen him since the shadows came," he admitted, his expression haunted. "I thought I was going to lose you too." As I tried to think, the memory of that laugh enveloped my mind, sending shivers through me. What if he's in trouble? I pressed, fear rising in my chest. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," he urged, glancing back into the dark, all-consuming trees. "We have to keep moving." Just then, the dreadful laughter returned, ricocheting through the trees like it was alive and following us. I froze, feeling the color drain from my face. "What is that?" I whispered. "I don't know." Ethan shouted back, panic tightening his voice. "Just run." Adrenaline surged as we tore off into the forest, dodging low branches and thick underbrush. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting a shadow to leap out at us. Despite the fear pumping through my veins, my mind clung to one thought: we had to find Ben. After what felt like miles, we stumbled upon a clearing. Moonlight flooded the area, illuminating a small cabin nestled among the trees. It looked worn, old and forgotten, yet somehow inviting in the desolation. "Do you think Ben could be inside?" I asked, my voice trembling with hope and dread. "Maybe. But what if it's a trap?" Ethan murmured, eyeing the structure warily. "Those things could be, Ethan, we don't have time to think about that." I interrupted, my heart racing again. "What if he is hurt?" With a determined breath, I walked toward the cabin, my every instinct screaming to turn back. I opened the door slowly, the creak echoing in the stillness. Inside, shadows danced along the walls, but I couldn't see anything clearly. "Ben!" I called out, stepping inside. The air felt stale, and a musty scent filled my nostrils. Just as I turned to grab Ethan's arm, the door slammed shut behind us, plunging us into complete darkness. "Ethan!" I cried out, panic rising again. "What just happened?" But before he could respond, a low growl echoed through the room, reverberating like a threat. We weren't alone. The growl reverberated in my chest, each sound wave pushing me deeper into panic. I stepped back, my toes bumping against something solid furniture. My hands fumbled as I searched for a light switch, but what if it attracted whatever was in here with us? "Ethan! Can you see anything?" I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not yet," he replied, his breath shaky. "We need to find a way out." The darkness felt alive, wrapping around me. I felt Ethan's arm brush against mine, and I grasped it tightly. I couldn't shake the feeling something was watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Let us stick together," I murmured. We'll find the windows, maybe we can break one. We shuffled sideways, trying to navigate through the tight space. The growls sounded again, closer this time, making me freeze in place. My heart raced as I strained to listen, hoping it wouldn't grow bold enough to show itself. Then, unexpectedly, a soft whimper pierced through the air. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my ears straining for another sound. "Yes," Ethan replied, his eyes wide with fear. "It's coming from, over there." He pointed blindly into the darkness. I knew I shouldn't, but my curiosity took over. "Ben." I called softly, hoping against hope that it would draw him out. The whimper turned into a choked sob, and my heart sank. "Ben. We're here," I said, willing myself to sound brave. We stepped toward the sound, stumbling through debris. Suddenly, a faint glimmer caught my attention. The moonlight filtered through a crack in the wall, illuminating a shape huddled in the corner. "Ben." I rushed forward, my hope blossoming, but then it hit me, the shape didn't move like Ben. It was too still. The growl returned, this time accompanied by the unmistakable sound of claws scraping across the floorboards. I turned to Ethan, my mouth dry. "We have to go. Now." Just as I tried to pull him back, the door burst open, light flooding in. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the moonlight. My breath hitched, half expecting a monster, but it was just an older man, his features twisted with worry. "You too. Get out!" he shouted, backing away from the entrance. "It's not safe." Then I saw a dark shape slinking behind him, its eyes glowing in the darkness. My knees felt weak, but there was no time for fear. I grabbed Ethan's arm, and we tore past the man, our adrenaline propelling us forward. That's when the creature lunged, its growl rumbling through the air like thunder. I could feel its breath on my neck, hot and foul, making my skin crawl. We barreled through the door, crashing into the night air. The forest felt endless and disorienting as we stumbled away from the cabin. But then I heard the man yell behind us, and the terrifying thought crashed over me, we had left him behind. "Where do we go?" I gasped, looking wildly for direction. Ethan's face was pale, his eyes wide. "Anywhere but here. We need to find help, or we're next." But as we broke into a run, the laughter returned, this time echoing all around us, taunting us, daring us to turn back. Panic surged through me again, and I knew we had to keep moving or be consumed by the shadows lurking just out of sight. I didn't dare to look behind. I just ran. The forest closed in around us as we ran, branches clawing at our clothes and skin. My lungs burned, and every footfall felt heavy, but I couldn't afford to stop. Behind us, the rustling grew louder, the creature's growls mingling with the sinister laughter that seemed to slip through the trees. "Over there!" Ethan shouted, pointing to a path veiled in shadows. It wasn't the safest option, but desperation clawed at me. We darted into the woods, hoping to put distance between us and whatever hunted us. The path twisted and turned, leading us deeper into the darkness. I could barely see, but I trusted Ethan's lead. I could feel the panic coursing through us, like a tangle of nerves begging us to escape. Do you think it's still behind us?" I panted, trying to catch my breath. Ethan glanced back, his face pale. "I don't know. We can't stop." Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to turn, but we pressed on. My mind raced through every horror movie I had ever seen, each one taunting me with how simple it would be for a creature to pick us off one by one, just like those hapless characters. Then we stumbled upon a clearing, and the moonlight broke through the trees above us. It felt odd, out of place, like a spotlight in an otherwise darkened world. We finally paused, gasping for air, our eyes darting around for signs of danger. I think we lost it," Ethan said, drawing in shaky breaths. But the momentary relief was shattered when I noticed something in the center of the clearing. It was a pile of bones, large ones, animal bones, scattered and discolored. I swallowed hard, the sight sending a shiver down my spine. What in the world, I murmured, stepping closer. My pulse quickened even more. Ethan, look at this. He followed my gaze, horror etched on his face. Those are too big for just deer or anything like that, he said. What kind of animal does this? Before I could answer, the underbrush rustled again, and a familiar growl rumbled through the clearing, deeper this time, like it was circling us. I froze, dread wrapping around me. Ethan's eyes widened. We have to go. Now. We backed away slowly, not daring to take our eyes off the shadows. I could feel it, something lurking just out of sight, stalking us. I turned to lead us back toward the path we came, but the whimper returned, the same sound I had heard earlier. It echoed through the trees, wrapping around us until I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Ben. I called, fear clawing at my throat. Is that you? No response. Just the low growl and the whimper, harmonizing with the laughter that now echoed through the trees. Stay close, Ethan whispered, and I could see panic in his eyes. In that moment, I realized, no one had to convince us to run. Whatever was out there wasn't just a beast. It was smarter, waiting for us to make the first mistake. When I glanced over my shoulder again, the eyes glimmering in the shadows had drawn closer. That's when I saw it, a figure in the darkness, moving fast and low to the ground. It wasn't just the creature anymore. There were more shapes blending into the night, all watching us. We turned to run, our feet pounding against the forest floor, but the eerie laughter rang in my ears, and my heart sank. There was no escape. As we sprinted deeper into the forest, the laughter echoed all around us, rising and falling like a twisted melody. I could feel my pulse pounding in my temples, each heartbeat a reminder of how close danger loomed. Ethan and I weaved through the trees, the shadows flickering in my peripheral vision, taunting our attempts to escape. We need to find a way out. I shouted, trying to keep our movements frantic and erratic. We have to get back to the road. Jake! Ethan yelled back, his voice laced with desperation. Do you see anything? Any sign? Just as I turned to respond, the ground beneath us seemed to shift. Roots, thick and knotted, coiled together like serpents, were sprouting from the earth, reaching for us. Move! I cried, yanking Ethan forward just as a root sprang up within inches of my foot. As we dashed past the building tension of the trees, I sensed something shift in the air. The shadows around us twisted and morphed, drawing tighter. I felt an oppressive weight, as if the forest was not just an inanimate space, but alive. The laughter twisted into shrill giggles, fueled by joy and malice, and I stumbled on uneven ground, barely catching myself. And then, ahead, there was light, a faint glow breaking through the dense trees. It flickered like a beacon, pulsing with a rhythm that filled me with hope and dread. Ethan! Over there! I shouted, veering toward the promising light. We raced toward it, but not without hesitation, the laughter growing loud and mocking in our ears. This way! Ethan urged, pushing ahead, and I followed, trailing closely behind. My breath hitched as we broke through the bushes into a small clearing. The brightness was almost blinding, illuminating an old well at the clearing center, the stones overgrown with moss and vines. Maybe we can use it to hide, I gasped, my heart racing. If we can just get down there. But as I peered over the edge, the laughter reached a fever pitch, swirling around us like a tempest. I could see nothing but inky darkness below. What if it was not a refuge but a tomb? Jake! Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. Look! I turned just in time to see shadows emerging from the woods. Dark figures with glimmering eyes crawled closer, their smiles unnervingly wide. They were the same figures, those playful specters from before, gliding just beyond reach, drawing in closer, every giggle echoing like a taunt. In that moment, a flicker of recognition washed over me. They were all watching us, not as adversaries but, somehow, participants in a game we had stumbled into but didn't understand. My heart pounded as the laughter grew closer, and my instincts screamed that no matter our fear, we had to stay together. "Let us go!" I yelled, desperate. I grabbed Ethan's arm, and we moved toward the well. The figures converged on us, their expressions shifting from mirth to something darker, and it was clear that we were running out of time. Just as I was about to leap into the well, I glanced back. "Wait!" A voice rang out from behind the figures. My heart froze as I recognized it. Jake! Ethan! Ben! I yelled, pushing away from the edge, my eyes searching frantically through the crowd of shadows. There, in the distance, stood my younger son, his small stature barely illuminated by the soft, eerie glow emanating from the well. "Stay back, Ben!" I shouted, terror flooding my veins. "Get away from them!" But he rushed forward, oblivious to the danger, a look of longing mixed with the shadows around him. "Come play, Dad," he said, his voice a jarring contrast against those twisting forms. Something was off, I could see it in his wide eyes, an absent look that sent a chill racing down my spine. "No!" I screamed, lunging toward him, but the figures shifted in unison, surrounded him, blocking my path. Ethan's grip tightened on my arm as the laughter crescendoed, building into a storm of chaos. "We have to save him," I yelled, panic surging through me. I turned to Ethan. "We can't leave him." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, the weeping willows that surrounded the clearing began to sway, whispering secrets. I could barely hear. The figures stepped back, shifting rhythmically to an unheard beat, their giggling echoing in a playful manner, beckoning us deeper. A glimmer of hope sparked in my mind. If we could outsmart them, redirect their game, Jake, what are you thinking? Ethan shook me, his eyes filled with fear. "We have to distract them," I said, my brain racing. "If we can make them think we're ready to play their game, maybe we can lure them away from Ben." "Are you crazy?" Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. I glanced back at Ben, at the way he stood amidst the dancing figures. "I can't leave him." With every ounce of fear and bravery in my being, I raised my voice. "All right. We'll play," I shouted, catching the attention of those shadowy figures. "What do you want?" "Show us the game." The figures paused and turned toward me, their laughter ringing out triumphantly. Encouraged by their attention, I stepped forward, keeping Ethan close. "Let us play." The shifting mass of figures seemed to hesitate, the energy in the air forming crackles of excitement. "Join us," they sang, their voices intertwining like flowing water. "Stay close," I hissed to Ethan, leading him away from the well toward the opposite edge of the clearing. Their focus shifted momentarily to our false offer, and I felt the tension ease just slightly, giving us a window of opportunity. I reached for Ethan, sliding to the farthest edge of the clearing while keeping my eyes fixed on Ben and those creatures, praying that my gamble would pay off. "Come on," I whispered urgently. "We can't lose him." And right then a surge of energy filled the air as the figures began to swirl around us, dragging us closer, pulling us into their laughter. In a blink, the giggles changed. Enveloping us, pushing us further into whatever twisted game they were playing, we vanished into the crowd. "Don't let go," I shouted over the din, the shadows closing in around us. We were ensnared, caught between a world we didn't understand. As I stumbled with Ethan beside me, I kept my gaze fixed on Ben, though the shadows threatened to drown him in their fun. I prayed, pleading for a way out, for a way to save my son and ourselves from whatever consciousness had gripped the forest. But even as we fought against the tide of laughter and shadowed figures, I could feel it, some unshakable sense of despair creeping in. My mind buzzed with questions. What was this game? Would we ever find our way back? Would we escape from the grip of shadows? Just when I thought I was going to be lost to the laughter, a sudden clarity washed over me. "We want to play your game," I shouted with raw determination, pulling Ethan toward the well. "We'll escape." In that moment, The rhythm of the figures faltered, laughter stuttered and twisted, as we flung ourselves into the darkness of the well, the whispers of the forest fading into a haunting echo. As I fell, arms wrapped tightly around Ethan, I felt a strange mixture of terror and hope. I didn't know how this would end, and as the darkness engulfed us, I realized something: the woods would always hold their mysteries, and somewhere, the laughter would linger on, forever echoing in the shadows.